So, from nearly 2 decades in football to losing everything, including being conned, and ultimately becoming an award winning global coach and community builder, Luke's story is about losing identity and finding something even more powerful on the other side. Luke, welcome to Tumble Upward. Let's start with the beginning of your story. So, you started with
Thank you.
football up until the age of 19.
Yes, I did. Well, I'd probably say the time that I sort of put football to bed was around, well, I was like 21, 22 time. But yeah, 19 was up to the professional sort of scope, yeah.
And then, what got you into football in the beginning?
Well, it was just something I guess I was doing at such a young age, like 5 years old. I just had a football at my foot, just sort of enjoying it. It's like those things, isn't it? I mean, obviously now being a father myself, you just sort of watch your child sort of see where they want to be and what they want to do. And for me, it was just, my mum and dad always said to me, like, look, Luke, you just never left football alone, really. So I just sort of fell into that. And then they took me down the amateur route. And then I guess it sort of went from there.
Was it hard to get into sort of the professional level? Was it very competitive?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think for me, I was dipping in and out of the professional route from ages of seven. Like we used to have our amateur team basically have games organised with these professional outfits, like Nottingham Forest, Derby County, Notts County at the time, and my dad was always very firmly on the stance of, look, I want Luke. I want my son to enjoy his football as much as possible. So I didn't really sort of go into the all-in professional scene until I was 13.
Okay. And then when you were in the professional field, did you somewhat lose your passion a bit more, or did it change things for you? Because now it wasn't sort of just a fun hobby. It was like, okay, I've got to actually do like a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I guess from 13, I was still really enjoying it. I think the pressure started mounting when I was actually taking a day out of school to sort of train with the men's team. It was sort of like nurturing you into that environment and to see whether you could cope with it, just to see whether you was somebody that, they'd see in their sort of like youth team, it was called, to then go up to the first team, or reserve team, then first team. And I really enjoyed that. That wasn't an issue. I think where the issue started to lie for me is that when I had signed a 2 year scholarship, I just sort of had the managerial team that was there at the time. I just didn't get along with them.
Mm.
And I think that's when I started to lose who I was. I'd gone from this like super like energetic, hardworking, positive kind of person when I left school to then being all football full time, doing education as well as, doing the football. And I just started to, yeah, just lose that buzz.
Yeah, so sort of that passion for it so much.
Yeah. And I think it came from multiple things, Karen. Like one was actually, I mean, I'm very open to talk about this, is one was I was actually getting bullied.
Hmm.
I was trying to convince myself it was banter, but actually there's only so much banter that you can take as an individual, especially in sports. I mean, I'm sure people listening to this episode will understand that if you're in sports, you have a bit of banter, you have a bit of a laugh. But then there's things that people say and things that people do when I sort of like, you've kind of crossed the line there. I think
Mm.
that's, so to give you an example, I think when somebody starts messing with someone's food, I
Wow.
just find that, if you've had like, yeah, so like literally putting like coffee granules sugar in my food and then just mixing it in without me knowing whilst I was like maybe out just doing a cool down or something and some lads are just like, oh yeah, we'll do this to Luke's food, and he'll they found it funny, and then you sort of sat there in the changing rooms and people are like looking at you and giggling like little kids,
Yeah.
and I was like, what are they doing it? And then I'm eating the food and I'm like spitting it out on the floor and I'm chucking it in the bin and I'm like, come on lads, like we're in pre-season.
Yeah.
Like I understand you'll put shower gel in my trainers, whatever, deep heat in my boxers so my balls are on fire or whatever. Like, listen, I'm all for the fun, but I just think when you're going into someone's food,
Yeah.
nah, like that, and then it just started getting to me a bit. I guess it just
Yeah.
started affecting me mentally. I sort of felt that every time I walked into the change room, I'd have eyes in the back of my head.
Yeah.
So it sort of took my focus away from my football.
Mm.
It was like I started thinking like, oh, what are these guys going to do next to me to sort of, I don't know, and I did, and it affected me.
Do you find that in professional sport, there are sometimes some sort of, cliques. In school you would have cliques of like people like gang up on people or whatnot. Because I guess mental health is so important. Did they have any like support externally, or did they get pulled up by anyone like higher up?
Well, so that's really good. I mean, I'll be really honest. I think that again, this comes, I feel, down to the managerial team at the time. They was quite old school, in the generation of just like toughen up,
Mm,
get on with it. They did sort of give that like, hey, if you've got any issues, if there's anything happening, my door's always open. But then I would walk through that door and sort of say, hey, this is going on. They just weren't interested. They weren't bothered. So I felt like I was genuinely talking to a brick wall.
yeah,
Obviously, I was very fortunate, and I am still very fortunate that my family's been my rock. They've always been a support. My dad was always on the other side of the phone to talk to. But yeah, I mean, it's different now. But I think going back to like, I mean, we're talking 2012, 2013.
yeah,
They didn't have like mental health sort of. I mean, we did have like sports therapists come in from university, but it wasn't on hand.
yeah,
It's like now, I feel like now in football clubs and sport, especially, you have everything. You've got
yeah.
everything at your fingertips. If you've got a physio, you've got this, you've got that, you've got this. At that time, for me, it was, and to be honest with you, I didn't actually know that was my sort of phase of my life where I was falling into depression, but I didn't actually know what it was.
Mm. I guess like the stigma these days, mental health is so the forefront of everyone's mind. But back in the
Yeah.
early 2000s, it was very like stigmatized. Like you sort of just dealt with it yourself. If you're like, I'm not going to tell anyone, like it's fine, like I'll get through it.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely that. I think. I mean, my sort of dad was never. He would sympathise, which actually, to be honest, was actually quite comforting. He wouldn't be like, "Get on with it, son. Come on,
Mm,
toughen up." Which I know I've spoken with a lot of footballers. That some have made it. There's not many that have actually that I used to play football with. So it just shows you the odds are genuinely against you, for so many different reasons. But yeah, you hear those stories where come on, lad, you got to be stronger. You're mentally weak,
yeah,
and I think when you sort of hear that as a man, well, a boy growing into a man, because obviously I was getting into becoming an adult.
yeah,
You're mentally weak. I think when you hear those words, you're mentally, oh gosh, it sort of like sends you south. I mean, I didn't
mm,
have that told to me, but I mean, I did, like the footballers that I was in the change room with, they used to just say, oh gosh, Lou, you're dead sensitive, man. What's wrong with you? But they would be calling me names. So they say stuff like, oh, Lou, you're a fat bastard. They'd talk to my mum. They'd say, oh, I'd bend your mum over backwards. And, oh, it'd just
your
be stuff where
family
you're
as
like,
well.
yo, yeah, so they
Please.
brought, they did those sort of things. That sent me crazy. Like
Yeah.
I did lose my head, and they just played it. It was like, but and the issue was because I was a player that it was affecting me, and then the managerial staff didn't really get along with me. Like I think they just didn't like the fact that I would ask and stand up for myself
Mm,
if I had a question or a concern. I didn't fit in the squad. I was on the bench. I wasn't playing. So none of the footballers had my back because they're not your real friends. You
yeah.
think they are at the time, but they're not. As
Yeah.
soon as you're out of the game, you're gone.
Yeah.
So it was like, I mean, I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but it was for me.
Mm,
No one said, "Listen, pack it in now, mate. That's enough." When you
yeah.
start, we're all in for a bit of crack, but to say stuff like that about somebody, it's hurtful. That's going to have an impact. And you know what? It really did.
Mm,
It's had. I mean, even me talking about that, it affected my body image. I struggled with the way I looked at myself in the mirror. I went into harsh dieting, and I got a PT at the time at football to try and resurrect this problem that it really did affect me.
yeah. Yeah. I guess as well, like with the depression, and then did you feel like you sort of had body dysmorphia at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. Again, I did. I have to say this. Okay, I didn't know. I
Mm,
didn't know what it was. It was a feeling that I've never felt before. Imagine I was at school and I left my school with like Luke's a super positive guy. I love his energy. I was a popular kid, and I mean I was that. I guess I was that loved and appreciated as a fun guy that even when I left home because I moved home to another sort of town and city away from home. So I moved away from home at 16. I had a leaving party and everyone was like, "Oh, Luke, you're gonna make it, man. Remember me when you're famous and all this." And I don't know, it just I'd gone from one extreme to the other.
mm,
And I was a chubby kid like with my body, but I never, throughout my football, I never really got called, fat until, I mean, people will call people fat if they're not even fat anyway. They'll just do it for a bit of a banter of like, look at you, you fat
Yeah.
bastard, or something like that. But I think for me, I think, it got to me more than I thought.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was no boundaries and there was no barriers. I mean, this is what it was like when I was playing football. Like, it was pretty brutal. I mean, I could say a few other things about. Again, you'll never know this behind closed doors, and I think that's why even still today, kids, young footballers struggle with mental health because it's the things that people say and how they get away with it. If it and it comes down to the staff above.
Mm.
So yeah, I struggled with that, and then I guess what I started doing is I just started rocking up to football and being like, right, because I used to give it back, but then it just kept getting worse. And then I squared up to a few of them. I didn't have like a full brawl on fight, but I'd headbutt someone, or I would stick up for myself, but it weren't doing anything. It was just getting worse. So
Mm.
I was like, right, I'm going to remove myself from this situation and bottle it up. But then bottling it up made it worse over a long term.
Yeah. Did you recognize at some point in the moment that you were depressed, or is it now, looking back on it now, you're able to reflect, oh, that's what I was going through?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was more on reflection and hindsight. I
Yeah.
think from 19 to probably 22, probably 19 to 21 was like depression. I wasn't because I didn't go out anyway. Like, it was just I was dedicated to football. I didn't do anything else.
Mm.
I think when I got released at 19, I was determined. I had this anger inside of me to be like, you know what, I'm going to prove all you people wrong, and I'm going to make it in football.
Yeah.
Because you've just abused me. You've just kicked me down the road like a can down the road and just gone, abusing me basically. So I was like, I'm gonna. And the thing is that anger and desperation didn't actually. It made me worse. Because I wasn't in control. I wasn't sort of, confident in what I was doing. I was just doing it to try and prove others wrong.
Yeah. Just acting on
And
emotion.
yeah, exactly. So I was quite volatile.
Mm.
And I was doing, and that's when I took on an agent.
Yeah.
And then obviously when you said in the intro about getting conned by an agent, again, because I was in
Yes.
this such of like, yeah, so it's all kind of came in, and it was like, I was like, right, I want to get somebody to help me. So I'm going to take on an agent. And because I was, and I was believing this agent was, I mean, looking back now, okay, it was stupid. You'd know straight away if there was con, but this guy was basically it was from Ghana, and he was acting as an American agent for LA Galaxy, right?
Okay.
And when I talk about it, I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, how did I not see that this guy was conning people? But he was. He
Mm.
was so good at what he was doing, and it was like $500. And yeah, because I was in that state of depression, if you want to call it, at the time, it got me at my vulnerable state. It got me.
Yeah.
And I just said to my dad, I was like, Dad, and these formal agreements that he'd sent out, they looked legit. But I'll never forget, it was sending money. It was via Western Union, and you was wiring money over to this address that was in America, and it was a female. And this is when it got a bit like, and he was saying, oh no, that's my associate. She sort of, she sort of deals with the finance. He was doing it so cleverly, and I was only what 20, 21 at the time.
Yeah. In such a
And
vulnerable
then I had,
state.
yeah, and obviously my dad's just like, look, Luke, if you believe it is, son, I'll support you, because obviously they were supporting me financially. I didn't have a job at this time. I was like going for the football dream, and my dad just went, look, okay, I'll send it over. So he sent the money, and then I can remember having like a couple of messages on LinkedIn, because at the time I was like doing all my show reels and stuff on LinkedIn, and this young guy from Sao Paulo, Brazil, who couldn't really, his English weren't well put together, but I still understood what he was saying. He was saying, been have you been asked by this guy to send him money? And I was like, oh gosh, I've already sent him money.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's fake. He was like, he is fake. And then he was just putting like scam, stuff like that. And then obviously you're reporting him, and then yeah, the guy just sort of fell off the face of the earth, and never heard from him since. And he just, again, so like for me, one day I had this euphoria of dopamine and endorphins that I'd got this agreement to go out to LA Galaxy to play football, because my idol was David Beckham. So I sort of like was following his sort of, oh my God, Man United didn't make it there. LA Galaxy, let's go there. And then the next day I was in tears, broken. I was just crying my eyes out, going, I can't believe it. It's happened to me again. I've just been used and abused and kicked, and it hurts so much.
Yeah. How did you get out of that spiral? How long were you in that spiral for? Were you still playing and training
So
at the time?
yeah, I was at a semi-professional outfit. I was also very fortunate, and I have to say that there is positives here. You know, it's not just all doom and gloom. I met a guy that allowed me to train in his performance centre. So he was based in Manchester, which I was driving um, about an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. But when I went up and trained there, I was around, especially in this off season when it was like players were getting ready for season. I was around like Jamie O'Hara, I was around Craig Dawson. I was, I mean Darren Fletcher, he used to be United. I even met Roy Keane, who used to play for United and Republic of Ireland. All these top athletes. I got to meet them. Had a boxing session with him, and so what I mean is this guy took me under his wing. This guy Mick Clegg, and if he ever comes across this episode, I'm very grateful for his sort of belief in me. He believed that, Luke, you've got something that not many footballers have, and that's discipline and that's consistency. And he given me that sort of, he picked me up. Every time I went in that environment, I felt safe and I was operating at my best because I was just like, he makes me a better person. And I met some great athletes in that environment. But then as soon as I walked out those doors, it was like, boof, sort of back to reality. And I was getting paid at the time. I was playing semi-professional football. But I think I was 20, I was 22 at this point. I was looking at it and going, I'm working with my dad engineering. So I wanted to earn a bit of money. I wasn't just wanting to take off my dad anymore. I didn't want to just be handed the money. I was like, no, I'm going to give back. I want to work a little bit. I always had that mentality. I didn't want to just be, and even to this day, I don't want somebody to just hand me something.
Yeah.
So yeah, at 22, I decided, look, something's got to change, and that's when I pivoted. That's when I started. I didn't want to, because I had my coaching badges in football. I had my coaching. I hated football. I was like, I've got to find something outside of football. And that's when like my identity like crisis was happening, where I was like, what am I going to do? Like, where's my life going? I don't want to go to university. I'm 22. I don't want to start university. All my friends are like
finished.
They're in. Yeah, they're done. Yeah, they sort of. Some of them are like in construction. It looks like they've got their life together, and I'm here going, shit, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So, I took on my personal training qualification. I signed up to a 6-week in-person course. I mean, now it's all online, but at that time, I feel grateful that I had the in-person experience because it sort of set me up really well. And then that's when I sort of found my path and headed out onto cruise ships as a personal trainer, and that was sort of my reinvention phase of my life.
Yeah. I guess like looking back on it in hindsight now, like 22 in the moment seems like so old, like, oh my gosh, I've got to have it together, like yada yada. But looking back on it now, it's like so young, like still so much time ahead of you. But I definitely get the identity and pivoting. Like I went to uni as my backup option, but that's not what I wanted to do. But I also had an identity crisis, and I was like, well, I've got to work on something. And I had this course that I had applied for and deferred. So I'm like, well, I guess I go to uni now. Like that's just the thing. But it's so hard at a young age to know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it's very, like I say, it's very different now. I mean, that's exactly how I felt. I felt I'm old. What am I doing with my life? Where's my direction? Because, my parents, they was married by 21, and I was 22 at the time, and I was single, and I was just like, no career path. Like my father, my mum, she was working in like sort of a sewing factory and stuff like that. And my dad, he's an engineer. So he was in a trade, and he was building up his skills to then run, he now runs his own business sort of thing. And I was just, obviously, what you're used to and what you're around most of your time, it pressures you into a certain way.
Yeah.
Or you question your own sort of actions and your life.
Yeah. I say our parents' generation was so different to ours, like different lifetime.
Oh yeah, well, 1,000,000%. Yeah, I mean, obviously you see it now. I mean, we've got 2-year-old daughter, and you sort of look at it and go, oh, maybe they might be out, on the property ladder, or maybe they might have moved out by, I don't know, mid-20s or something. But now or early 20s, let's say. But now it's like 30 because it's just the way the way the world is, and unless you've obviously got a decent career, or I don't know, maybe you've partnered with somebody who's doing well, or what, or you know it's hard to get yourself on the ladder and just get out and have your independent life. I guess it's
Yeah.
a lot harder now.
It's totally different goals now.
Yeah,
The goalpost
yeah,
is so different. Yeah.
yeah. It's
And then when you worked on cruise ships, how was that experience for you in a new career?
Yeah, so I think for me it was, at the time I felt like I've got to do something. I needed a push away from football. So the cruise ship life, I met a guy that was doing my personal training qualification. He was tutoring me, and he had done that experience. So that was great for me to hear it firsthand, in person. What was it like?
Hmm.
And do you know what? I'll be straight with you. He said to me, he says, Luke, you see a new place every day. You meet some amazing people. You'll be
Yeah.
partying, and I just it sold it to me. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, sign me up, because I'd pulled myself away from females and just life and fun. The fun, I think that was the main thing. I'd just zapped all the fun, and like I say, I was that positive guy and energetic, and I just lost it all. So I was like, right, do you know what? Let's do it. Let's go. So I went through the whole procedure, and it was 9 months. I was technically moving my life
Mm.
to a cruise ship that I'd never ever stepped foot on. It was shock to my system. I can remember flying out to Vancouver, and never been to Vancouver, Canada. I went out there, and I can remember just with my two suitcases, and I got met at the sort of terminal by a Filipino guy that was like got a list of sort of crew members who's coming on the ship, and I was looking up, and I was like, oh my, this is huge.
Massive.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is like, wow, this is my life, for 9 months. But do you know what? What was so refreshing, Karen, was the fact that nobody knew my background.
And
They
no one
was
knew who you
meeting
were.
me, correct. People was
Mm.
meeting me where I was in that moment. There wasn't judging my past. There wasn't judging where I was going to go in the future. There was like, call you. What's your position on this cruise ship? I was like, oh, I'm fitness trainer. That's it. And then
Yeah.
you have fun. You get to know each other. I got through in the deep end. I mean, yeah, it was just. When I look back, it was such a roller coaster. We sort of, as soon as I got on, I was in Canada, Alaska for a couple of weeks, and then we did a whole repositioning to Sydney, and then we did Sydney, New Zealand for like 6 months, and that was a really cool experience.
What was your favorite thing about Australia?
I think for me, I just love the sort of wildlife. I think
Mm.
as a kid, I love kangaroos. So I was just like, when I got to see the kangaroos, obviously I love the sort of mentality as well, because a lot of Aussies come on. I think again they sort of brought that positivity out of me again.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, when you're having conversations with them, they're just smiley people, more relaxed, laid back.
How long did you work on cruise ships for?
2.5 years.
Okay. And then what
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, it was.
made your decision to leave that?
I think it was more just like I felt like I was in a floating fantasy world.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of the sea. Anything goes, right? So, like, say you're in the middle of the sea, there's no government control or anything like that. It was just like tax-free money. So I've got no accounts. I'm like looking at my life, going, oh, how am I going to sort of get on the property ladder, or start a future, or it was just. I thought I exhausted everything. I got where I wanted to be. I'd seen quite a bit of the world. I didn't see all the world, but I saw majority of the places,
Mm.
and I was like, I started hitting that wall of. I was 25. No, I was 24 at the time, and I was looking, well, 24, nearly 25. I was looking at it and going, I think, I sort of need to look at my life here, and I was looking at the 5 years. I was like, right, I'm going to be 5 years. I'll be 30, and
Yeah.
I don't want to still be. I still don't want to be on this cruise ship, and that was just the way I was sort of thinking. So, yeah, I'd already set up my PT business, and I decided, you know what, I'll move back to land. It was a decision that was a smart one at the time, and I moved back home, which was hard because I'd been so independent. I practically lived away from home since the age of 16, and I kept bitting and bobbing. So to like commit finally back home was tough as well.
Yeah. What difficulties did you face in terms of setting up your own business on land?
So it was more, again, it was like, oh, okay, so like I mean, obviously on a cruise ship, for example, I was actually selling sort of herbal supplements, and I got commission off that.
Hmm.
You sort of have the traffic, come through. to you. You know, it was more like, you know, you have the opportunity, the people are there because there's thousands of people on there. I think for me, it was just more about, again, I sort of felt that little bit of an older version because I built this confident version again. I sort of that older version of Luke creeping in, come back, you know, like, oh, you know, you don't look like a personal trainer. You're still fat. You know, it was like,
The
you know,
self-doubt.
yeah, that all sort of like coming because I was like back at home and I was like thinking, and I judged my old town because I knew what it was like. People was quite closed-minded, a bit negative, and I thought, oh, people ain't got much money and they're not going to
Mm.
invest in personal training and blah blah blah. And I was back home and I can always remember this because I was walking to a gym that I was at and I was walking on my way home and I saw these sort of three girls that was putting up this banner at an anytime. I mean, I'm sure you're aware. You've got Anytime Fitness, haven't you, in
Yeah,
Australia?
they're
Yeah. So that was the gym that I got self-employed at for personal training, and I saw these girls, and it was like, oh, hey. It was like dead bubbly. It was like, hey, how are you? Just letting you know, we're going to be opening up a gym on this retail park. Come and check us out. I Porter Cabins there. It wasn't even open. It was just like, come and check it out. Sign up, basically. And I looked at it, and it was only like 10-minute walk from home.
mm.
So like 3-minute car drive. And I can remember going home to mum and dad, and it was just like one of those moments where it couldn't have come at a better time because I was looking to sort of get my business off the ground. And yeah, my mum and dad, my dad was just like, Luke, you need to get in that gym, man. You need to sort of find a way to start your business there because you need to be around people. I'm a social person, you know. This
Yeah.
online world, I know we're in the online world now, but
Yeah.
and we're obviously doing this, which is amazing that we're doing this digitally, but
Mm.
I just it's great, but I'm very good in person. So yeah, I just sort of reached out to the gym, and before they opened up, they got me down as a personal trainer, and that started back in 2018, and it just went from there really. Like I literally can remember going into that gym going, I'm going to own this gym, but it's not my gym. But
Yeah.
I had this sort of backing of confidence, and my energy just started. Obviously, you know, when people want to work with you, you sort of go, oh yeah, great. You know, I was just working with everybody and anybody. Like that gym, being there from the ground up and being there for like 4.5 years really shown me what my potential is in fitness or as a business owner, I
Mm.
guess.
I guess you got the experience of like having the business side of it as well. Did you ever struggle with burnout in terms of seeing so many clients?
Oh yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I was the
Yeah.
yes man. You know,
Yeah.
I think you know what it was just because I heard the word no in football so much. Like, no, you're not good enough. No, you're not starting. No, Luke, we're not going to sign you. You know, when always that like negative spiral. So I was like, just start saying yes to
Say
more
yes
things,
to
Luke.
everything.
Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yeah.
Just go for it. You know, and I did, and that was it. So when somebody, yeah, I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then before you know it, I'm like single, and I'm like, I'm working, like completely obsessed.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a day off. I didn't have a day off. Bearing in mind as well, I was earning really great money. Like, I mean,
Mm.
I basically within 8 months, not only did I get to that time in my diary, but I literally got a deposit and I bought my own flat. So I was living in a nice luxury apartment with fancy stuff and whatever. And I was there. I was on my own. So I was like, oh, you know, I was sort of like made it. I was sort of
Yeah.
like, yeah.
This is
I
it.
mean, I'm independent. I've done it. And then basically COVID happened. You know, it got to
Mm.
COVID, and I was like, I was in such a like whirlwind of like 60 hour PT weeks, roughly 90-hour working weeks, and then bang, gym's closed. What do you do? That, and then it just completely pivoted my whole business.
Yeah. How did you pivot with COVID?
I can remember, I mean, obviously my fiance Abby, like we sort of met literally January before COVID hit. Like we sort of like got together, and she was obviously she was a deputy manager at a nursery and stuff, and she'd got told, look, you know, you covered this furlough scheme. It was a furlough scheme that came in the UK where basically most people who was employed, some people got let go, but most people that were employed basically got paid a wage and
Mm.
not work for like 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Yeah.
so I guess she was going to bed every night comforted, knowing that I'm still earning anyway.
Yeah.
Me on the other hand was like, shit, what am I gonna do? I was sat every morning sort of like scratching my head going, oh my god. But you know what, that panic soon went away because I thought, right, okay, Luke, slow down a little bit, because remember, I'd been so fast paced because it was like hour back to back clients. Like I'd do like 12 back to back, bang, 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 bang.
Mm.
And then I was sat there going, nothing's in my calendar, nothing. So I sat there and I was like, right, I'm going to write an email. So I just literally slowed down and I written an email to my clients. And I was like, look, this is the position I'm in. I have realised that basically, I was talking to him literally like this. I realised my apartment is very expensive, and I'm in a vulnerable position if I'm to stay where I am currently. I'm going to provide you with 3 options if you would love to continue with the service that I offer and deliver. So I gave him 3 options. I was like, look, you can completely freeze. So obviously I completely understand if you're in a position of like you don't know where your finances are at, you don't know where your job's at, you can freeze your payment, just leave it, just pause. You can like sort of pause your PT and invest in the online service. So that was sort of what I wanted most people to go for.
Yeah.
And the third option is like you've already like some people paid like 3 months in advance and stuff like that. I said, or we can offset sort of like the online fee. And at that time, honestly, Karen, I didn't know what to charge. I was like, oh, I'll just do £100 per month.
Mm.
So cheap, like so cheap. And I just a majority of people just sort of come back and says, Luke, what would be best for you? What would support you? And I was like, oh my god, I was like, wow, that's amazing that they literally was like really wanting to support us. And obviously I was like, please, if you could just freeze, like leave the PT, let's just do like let's separate them and we'll do the online. And basically for the first 3 months or so, I was breaking even with my bills, so I wasn't actually making any money really.
Yeah. And then where did you go to from there to build your business up after COVID?
So I basically throughout COVID, Abby, who is my fiance, she wanted a change in career. Everything sort of changed when she got back to the nurseries. There were a lot more regulations. There was a lot more things that had shifted, which obviously a lot changed, didn't it, after COVID?
Mm.
She didn't want to be there anymore, so she came into personal training. I sort of took her under my wing. She became part of the brand. I actually grown a team, so I got a team of 5 coaches. So I started generating a lot of revenue from that as well, because it was sort of like a franchise. They was branded under the Muscle Coach tree, and I helped them move and transition from an employed role that they was in to become self-employed.
Yeah.
So we then grown. So really, like whereas I probably had about 40 odd clients, we sort of grown to like 200.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Did you have like an external sales and marketing team, or were you doing that yourself?
So I had an admin. So I had somebody who sort of dealt with the invoices, dealt with all the PTs and all that. But in terms of sales and marketing, because obviously people invest in me, and they were sort of getting it. I invested in a mentorship. So I sort of wanted to learn how to do the sales and marketing. But I did bring in like virtual assistants. I had like graphic designers, but you could say I brought in a bit of a marketing team for a period of time, yeah. But in terms of like doing the sales for me, I personally wanted it to be myself doing it, just because obviously people was like looking at me and going, I want to work with Luke. So
Yeah.
if I like literally if I got somebody else to sort of do the call or something, it would look a bit dodgy. That's the way I'd see it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just to give you context, now I'm back on my own. So I had these guys, built them up. They was with us for 2 years, and like anything, it sort of has a timeline, right? They got to a point where they was sort of wanting their own thing, which is absolutely fine.
Have you ever thought of sort of business development as a side business?
Yeah, it's a good question you ask. I do actually do that. Like as in, so just to give you context, like where I've pivoted the business, so I still do fitness, I still do in-person personal training. As I love it, I enjoy it. If I look at it from a business point of view, I tell people this. There's only so much I can charge in person, because it's time for your money, right? So more time, more money, more time, more money. In the business development sort of space, there's really no sort of right number to charge or right number. It literally is a bit of a put a number on it, wing it,
Yeah.
right? Because if you've got somebody that's sort of, I don't know, maybe they want to be, I don't know, let's say they want to be a graphic designer, right? There's graphic designers out there that are employed that say, I mean, in the UK, they might earn, say, 35 grand per year. But then there's the freelancers that do 90, 100,000, 200,000 per year, right? So for me, if I was to work with them and say, okay, you're employed at 30,000. What would it mean to you if I was to help you in, say we was to work together and do 5 coaching sessions, blah blah blah, whatever, and they go, oh, if I was to earn, say, even if I was to go from 35 grand to 50 grand, I would be absolutely made up. So for me, that's £15,000 of a gap that they're going to grow.
Yeah.
And they would be absolute, like, life changing.
I guess it's the mindset, trying to get them into the mindset of, like, it's an investment, it's not an expense.
Oh, sure.
As long as you're getting the
yeah,
like from a sales perspective. Yeah. So for people who have small businesses out there or startup businesses, going to put you on the spot, do you have any advice for them?
You've got to have conversations. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. So you've got to be vulnerable. Like, it's literally, you've got to let people know what it is that you want to build.
Yeah.
So you've got to live through that. You've got to do the behind the scenes. You've got to just talk and say to your family members, maybe you don't want to put it out on social media just yet. Maybe you're a little bit too scared. That's absolutely fine. Just have conversations and just see what people say.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Just if someone's chatting to you, like if you go into a pub, a restaurant, whatever, you sat next to somebody on a plane, or you sat next to someone in a bus, just say, hey, how are you? Have a chat. Just say, hey, how are you? Start the conversation. You've got to start testing it to real people.
Yeah.
By sharing it online.
Yeah.
So then by basically going, guys, I've actually already gone out. Like, be real. Like, say, look, I've literally been having conversations behind closed doors, and I'm now ready to actually share publicly online what I'm actually wanting to launch. Literally from there, ask people then. So go and find people that are in a similar space to you and set up a conversation with them and ask them how they did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that's what I did with the podcast as well. And like, prepping for it and everything was like fine. But then it got to the point where it was like, okay, now I actually have to launch it because I need to announce it to the world so that I can get guests.
Sure.
But at the same time, I was like, what will people think? Like, what if it's really bad? Like, whatnot?
Okay.
So then I put it on pause for a couple of months. And then I kept talking about it. And then I got to the point where I was sort of like, I'm sick of saying I want to do these things, but not actually doing them. So, I found once I had the initial post and it went out, and everyone was really supportive anyway, but it sort of helped to keep going. It was just the initial one that was scary. But after that, like, it's not too bad.
No, and this is the thing, isn't it? It's like failure is feedback as well. You talk about feedback. I mean, good for you on sort of going with it. I mean, I was exactly the same when I sort of, started my podcast in February 2024. I look back at the episode and, I picked people initially at the beginning that I knew, right? I just sort of used my network that I knew. Like, if you're starting a business, like, allow your sort of close friends and people around you to be your guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Let them sort of shout about it and just do it for free. Like, just learn, develop.
Yeah.
We are all human at the end of the day. It's just we do get in our own way.
Yeah. There's like a word of advice that I love that I've heard this year, and it's like every no is just another step closer to a yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So I definitely think you have to keep putting yourself out there and keep getting heaps of no's and let the no's feed you, because it's just closer to a yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about your podcasts?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd set the podcast up from pretty much going into so we were talking about the business development, just to give your audience context. So I started going down that route a little bit more, sort of wanted to go into the corporate wellness space, sort of deliver, health workshops, fitness workshops, or training, whatever it was. And I was hitting a brick wall quite a lot of time. I hit a lot of resistance. And what I found is that a lot of these people, I mean, I know they're fast paced, I know they're busy. They didn't give you the time of day. Everything was like 15-minute conversations. Everything was like, give me a 30-second pitch. Right, you've got 1 minute. You've got 1 minute to sort of tell me what you want to do. And I don't know, I'm just like, and I was like, I can't do it in 1 minute. Not what I want to tell you and what I want to share with you. This idea, I can't, So I got to the point where I was like, right, do you know what? I started listening to lots of podcasts. And I was like thinking like Joe Rogan, my gosh, 3 hours long. It's like half a day.
Who would listen to that?
So I know, but I was like, so many was. It was like, this is the top top podcasts. So I was thinking, so there are people out there that will give you the time. So I thought to myself, I'd had 2 identity sort of crises, like loss of identity twice. And I thought, do you know what? I'll never forget one of the coaches that I work with. And he said to me, he says, Luke, if I was to take your business away from you right now, and I covered everything for you, so I took it away, you didn't have to worry about anything to do with your business. It's all taken care of. Who are you?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Yeah,
Jeez.
but I didn't know the answer. Yeah, it was tough, and I
Yeah.
didn't know the answer.
Yeah.
I was like, because everything in my life, because I was just a workaholic and grinder, hustler. And look, I know people will go, yeah, but I love hustling. It's like my job is not. I don't feel like a job. I'm just working. It's a passion.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you can't lose it. You can't lose yourself in it. You don't want to lose yourself in it because if you do, then you're never going to have a relationship.
Yeah.
You're never going to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you might say you're having fun, but you've got to do other stuff. You've got to slow down. You've got to be present. Like, you're never going to be present if you're just constantly on
Mm.
the hamster wheel of go, go, chase more, go, go, go. So that's when Beyond the Boardroom came in. I want to strip away this 15-minute crap. I want to strip away all these prepared elevator pitches and questions and stuff like that. I want to just bring people in the moment and just see where it goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I absolutely love the podcast. I just love doing it, and I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah. That's awesome. I find as well, like, people with their stories, you hear like overnight success or this billionaire or whatnot, and you think, oh my gosh, they're just lucky, or just overnight they're just like gotten a success. But you don't see the years prior of sacrifices and all the hard work that goes into it. So I think when they unpack that on podcasts, it's a good way for people to understand sort of, I guess, like a peek behind the curtain and all the work that goes into it, and that they can do that, but they just have to follow the steps.
Yeah, yeah, that is exactly right. I think, yeah, what's going on behind the curtain? If you had a camera following you all day long, what would people see? What would people think? Are you showing up as your authentic self? I think that's what I wanted as well. I wanted to sort of show up as my authentic self again because I felt like when I went into that business development space, which I still do, but I found myself trying to be somebody, that I'm not like dressing up quite smart, let's say, and I just love wearing gym gear, and I was like trying to just be this person that it's just not me.
Yeah. I also think people link their identity to their career. So, like if you go out to a social event and you meet new people, the first question they ask you is, what do you do for work? And I just hate that question
Oh,
because it's like,
yeah. Oh, no.
So much so, like, that's not me. Like, I'd rather ask you, like, what are your hobbies,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like hearing, yeah, like what's your favorite place you've traveled to? What did you
Yeah.
do there?
Yeah,
It's I think all stuff like that, like, is so important.
for sure. And if you could go back and give yourself one sentence of advice at your lowest point, what would it be?
Be prepared for a roller coaster ride because
Mm.
nobody queues up for a flat one.
Awesome. I love that. Short and sweet.
Yeah, honestly, like I only learned this from somebody that I think I might have read it in a self-improvement book about that. It was just I was like, yeah, because I think you just what if you talk about life in general, you sort of people are living that linear life. They're like, go, yeah, I leave school, go college, uni, get a job. That's my job for 30, 40 years. I retire. You got married, you got kids. It seems as though like you think your life's going to go this certain way, but actually it's down, twist, turn, upside down,
Yeah.
at the bottom, speed. It's like
Yeah.
it's just, and I think that's because I was at my lowest point. I didn't think I could get out of that lowest point,
Yeah.
but actually, you do.
You
Like the
do.
lowest point drives you into this next shooting star, or going up on the roller coaster and then seeing a view. Like you're looking at the top and go, whoa, I've made it, whoa. And then like, no, you drop down to the bottom, you go into debt. And you're like, whoa, you go up. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. And looking back on your journey now, is there anything you can smile or laugh about?
Yeah, I think for me is don't take it to heart too much. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's what I've got to look at. It's like not a lot about like don't take life too seriously. I wouldn't say that for me, but just looking back, I mean, I do wear the heart on my sleeve. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm quite a sensitive person. I think sometimes it's like, hey, listen, Luke, what's the worst that can happen? Just try and flip it. Don't sort of think doom and gloom and it's over. Because I would have like, oh, it's done. I'm done. I'm out. See ya. It's like, whoa, 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 slow down a bit. Slow down. Okay.
Well, thanks so much for joining. It was a great chat.
No, honestly, thank you as well for having me on. And yeah, it obviously for me, it's so nice to be on the other side.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to say if you or anyone you know has a story to share, please reach out so that I can keep bringing you stories from our community. Let's get as many voices heard as possible. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, subscribe, review, and follow. Thanks, everyone.